They thought they were dealing with someone soft, someone harmless, someone whose kindness meant weakness. They took your grace for granted, your silence for submission, and your loyalty for blind devotion. But what they never realized was that every time they tried to break you, they were building someone far stronger than they ever intended to face. They thought you would crumble when they pushed you, that your world would fall apart at the first sign of betrayal. Instead, the pressure forged you. Their disrespect sharpened your instincts. Their manipulation burned away your innocence. They didn't just push too far, they activated something inside you that they are now terrified of. You were never born a villain, life sculpted you into one. They created conditions that demanded survival, and survival demanded transformation. When every attack found its mark, when every betrayal cut deeper, something inside you changed. You stopped defending yourself and instead evolved. At first, you tried to reason with them. You tried to explain, forgive, and maintain peace. But wolves don't understand the language of angels. They mistook gentleness for surrender and empathy for weakness. And that mistake cost them everything. They kept testing you because they thought you had no breaking point. They didn't realize that soft hearts have limits, and once that limit is reached, the heart doesn't shatter, it turns cold. And nothing is more frightening than someone who once cared losing the desire to care at all. They created the villain they now fear by refusing to appreciate the hero they once had. Every lie became a lesson. Every manipulation became fuel. Every betrayal became a brick in the foundation of someone who no longer flinched at pain. You stopped responding to their drama, and that silence was more terrifying than any argument could ever have been. They realized that the storm they thought they controlled was now out of their reach. The tables had turned, and without warning, they were no longer the ones in power. They used to be able to hurt you. They used to know which buttons to press. But when you healed, you rewired yourself. The old triggers no longer worked. The old weapons no longer cut. They showed up prepared for the old version of you and found a new force entirely. They tried to destroy you emotionally, forgetting that some souls rise higher the more they are torn down. Now they look at you and don't recognize what stands before them. You are sharper, wiser, and colder, not because you wanted to be, but because they left you no other choice. There is a special kind of fear that grips people when they realize the damage they've done is now irreversible. They are not scared of what you might do, they are scared of what they created. They played games with a peaceful soul and woke up a warrior. They wanted to see how far they could push you, and now they're terrified of how far you've pulled away. Once, you were reachable, soft, forgiving. Now you are distant, calculated, unreachable. And your distance is their punishment. They expected you to beg for understanding, to chase after closure, to cling to the version of the relationship they took for granted. Instead, you gave them the one thing they could never fight: indifference. Nothing is more chilling than someone who has been pushed so far that they no longer react. Someone who has seen enough to no longer be impressed or intimidated. You became that figure, emotionless, focused on your path without looking back. They never expected that their mistreatment would become your origin story. You were supposed to be the casualty of their selfishness, but instead, you became the climax of your own evolution. Now, they are a side note in the growth that was forced upon you. They're afraid not because you became darker, but because you became smarter. You learned to see through people, to read intentions, to detect masks. And their tricks that once worked now appear pathetic in comparison to the vision you developed. You used to fear losing them. Now they fear losing relevance in your life. You care so little that it burns them. They never imagined they would become background noise in the life of someone who used to make them the center of their world. Your transformation is a reminder of the consequences they never calculated. They played the villain and expected you to remain the victim. Instead, you embraced the strength that pain forced upon you, and now they can't find the courage to face the new reality. They tell others you changed, that you became cold, that your heart turned dark, but they never tell the part about who drove you there. They never mention how many times they lied, betrayed, or humiliated you before the light in your eyes went out. What scares them most is that you're not angry. Anger would have meant attachment. Rage would have meant you still cared. But the absence of emotion, your ability to discuss them with a straight face, is what sends shivers down their spine. They never expected you to outgrow the battlefield. They assumed the war would keep you trapped, wounded, and reactive. But instead, you walked off the field entirely, healed, and built a new kingdom where they are not even allowed to visit. You became powerful not through vengeance, but through evolution, and evolution is undefeatable. They cannot hurt the version of you that no longer needs their validation, attention, or presence. That realization is their biggest loss. They now see that you didn't lose the compassion you once had, you redirected it to yourself. And when someone finally learns to love themselves more than the people who hurt them, the dynamic changes permanently. They thought they could return whenever they wanted. They assumed the old access remained. But now the gates are locked, and the key melted in the fire they started. That loss terrifies them more than any punishment ever could. They now understand the truth. They didn't just break the angel, they forced the angel to trade wings for armor. And once armor is forged, the world can't go back to how it was. They gave birth to a villain, then realized too late that they were the creators of their own fear. They lie awake at night replaying their choices, realizing that every moment they thought they were winning, they were actually losing you. They didn't know that every time they mocked your kindness, every time they dismissed your feelings, they were carving away the last pieces of the version of you that still cared. Now they face the aftermath, a stronger, colder, more self-aware version of you who refuses to suffer for people who wouldn't even apologize. They once took pride in being able to hurt you. It gave them a sense of control, a thrill, a feeling of superiority. But now they're terrified because you aren't just unbothered, you're unstoppable. They don't know how to fight someone who doesn't need their approval, their explanation, or their presence. Their old tactics are useless because you see through them like glass. They tell themselves that you changed, that you became heartless. But the truth is simpler and far more painful. You matured past them. The version of you that tolerated manipulation is gone. They didn't expect you to evolve into someone they could no longer access, influence, or emotionally destabilize. They played the game expecting you to break, and instead, you mastered it in silence. They didn't understand that the moment you started thinking logically instead of emotionally, the war was already decided. They were still fighting with ego and insecurity while you were making moves with clarity and intelligence. That shift is what terrifies them most. They can no longer predict you. They don't know what you're thinking, what you feel, what you plan, and nothing scares a manipulator more than losing visibility. They used to underestimate you, thinking their games would always work. But evolution is the consequence of prolonged exposure to pain. You became wiser, more strategic, more detached. They kept repeating their old patterns without realizing you'd outgrown that version of the battlefield. And by the time they noticed, you were already miles ahead. People like them don't fear losing, they fear being forgotten. When you stopped reacting, when you stopped caring, when you stopped explaining yourself, it became obvious that they were no longer relevant in your story. Being removed from your life wasn't the punishment, they just can't handle that the world didn't end without them. Your silence became their defeat. What they didn't calculate was that you were always a fast learner. While they kept stabbing from the same angles, you learned how to stop bleeding. You learned how to shield yourself. You learned how to look someone in the face and feel nothing where once you felt everything. That emotional numbness, that self-preservation, is something they never expected to face. They used to be able to trigger you. One comment, one argument, one manipulative tactic could send you spiraling. But after everything they put you through, you broke the cycle. You became immune. And their biggest weapon, their ability to get a reaction, stopped working. That power loss is what truly scares them, because what is a puppeteer when the strings are cut? They watch you closely, expecting tears, rage, or public collapse, but nothing comes. Your silence is louder than any emotional breakdown they prepared for. They thought their disloyalty would send you spiraling, but instead you remained calm, composed, almost bored, as if you saw it coming long before the curtain dropped. And that is what confuses them most. How could you be betrayed and yet not be surprised? They can't understand that some people learn to read patterns the way others read books. You had seen the shift in tone, in behavior, in body language. The replies got shorter, the eye contact weaker, the effort thinner. Betrayal is rarely sudden, it's a buildup, a series of small kills that happen long before the final blow. While they were plotting their exit, you were already preparing your emotional distance. They expected you to fall apart because that is what they would have done. They move through life reacting, not understanding. They assume everyone needs someone to survive, because they do. But emotional independence is a language they never learned. And when they saw you speak it fluently, they had no translation for it. They wanted the scene chaos, accusations, yelling, questions, closure. They imagined themselves holding the upper hand, feeling powerful as you begged for an explanation. Instead, you walked away with quiet dignity, leaving them to drown in the noise of their own decision. They lost not only your presence, but the drama they hoped to feed on. They can't accept that your heart wasn't caught off guard because your intuition had already warned you. You didn't just see the betrayal, you watched it forming, piece by piece, like a slow storm rolling in from the distance. And once you feel the rain coming, getting wet doesn't surprise you. You had already detached long before they thought you noticed anything. While they were strategizing, feeding their ego, and entertaining lies, you were transitioning into acceptance. By the time they committed the betrayal, you were emotionally elsewhere. Betrayal only hurts when the bond is still alive. You had already buried it. They can't understand that betrayal doesn't always hit hardest. When it happens, it hits hardest when it's done by someone whose loyalty you still believed in. But your belief disappeared long before their actions did. You didn't lose a friend or lover when they betrayed you. You lost them the moment they stopped choosing you consistently. They thought they were smart, subtle, manipulative. They thought you were blind. They underestimated how deeply you observe, how quietly you analyze, how quickly you internalize. Some people speak loudly, others think loudly. And those who think loudly are harder to deceive. They keep asking themselves a question they don't dare speak aloud. Did you know the entire time? The painful truth is, yes, you did. You simply decided not to confront or correct. You were studying how much they were willing to throw away. And they threw away everything. They expected emotional devastation, but what they got was emotional intelligence. They can't understand that maturity teaches a simple truth. Not every battle deserves a reaction. Sometimes silence is the punishment. Sometimes indifference is the weapon. Sometimes letting someone lose you is the only answer that needs to be given. They don't realize you weren't shocked because you hold yourself accountable for choosing them in the first place. When you stop blaming people and start learning from decisions, betrayal becomes a lesson, not a tragedy. And that mindset is foreign to them. They always thought winning meant hurting you. They never understood that real winning is being unbothered. If you can watch someone betray you and still protect your peace, you've already won a war they didn't even know they were fighting. They can't grasp how someone can take a betrayal without revenge. They don't understand that revenge is exhausting, and peace is priceless. You didn't want to return the pain, you wanted to return to yourself. And that's something they cannot comprehend. In their mind, betrayal is an explosion. In yours, it is simply information. Once someone betrays you, you update your understanding of them. You don't collapse, you adjust. You don't break, you evolve. They never expected someone who could convert betrayal into clarity instead of trauma. They can't understand that the lack of reaction was the real reaction. It told them everything. They no longer had access. They no longer had influence. They no longer mattered. That is a deeper punishment than anger could ever deliver. They keep replaying everything, trying to locate where they lost control. They don't realize control was an illusion. You had already handed their emotional power back to yourself long before they made their move. You were prepared. They were not. They are confused because they believed their betrayal defined the story. But the truth is, it only defined them, not you. You continued growing, glowing, and moving forward. They remained stuck in the shallow moment where they tried to hurt you. They can't understand that when someone has been betrayed enough in life, they stop being shocked by people. They are only shocked by loyalty. That's the world experience builds. A world where trust is earned, not assumed. They were never ready for someone with emotional history. They thought you were naive. They thought you were easy. They thought you were dependent. But you turned out to be observant, resilient, and independent. That realization bruised their ego far more than losing your presence bruised your heart. Your lack of shock makes them feel small. They needed to believe they had the power to shake your foundation. When they didn't, they saw their true impact insignificant. Nothing hurts the ego more than discovering it never mattered the way it believed it did. They can't stop wondering, why wasn't it enough to destroy you? Because they never built you. If someone didn't contribute to your growth, how can they be the reason for your downfall? You constructed yourself piece by piece, bruise by bruise, lesson by lesson. Their betrayal was just another chapter, not the ending. They now understand something painful. You weren't shocked because you never assumed loyalty from someone who hadn't proven consistency. You didn't romanticize potential, you evaluated reality. And reality had been speaking the truth for a long time. They can't wrap their head around the fact that you chose distance instead of confrontation. They expected you to fight for the connection, to prove your worth, to make them feel important. But instead, you respected yourself enough to walk away. That is maturity weaponized. They believed betrayal would break you. Instead, it refined you. You became calmer, wiser, more selective. You didn't lose hope in love or people, you just became smarter about where you invest your heart. They created a stronger version of you without earning the right to experience it. They still try to decode how you could remain so composed. They don't understand that true power is internal. When you no longer need someone, they can no longer hurt you. That's the lesson they never learned. And in the end, the truth remains simple. You weren't shocked, because betrayal didn't change anything. It only confirmed everything you already knew. They thought they delivered destruction, but all they delivered was proof. They also struggle with the idea that you didn't try to seek closure. They waited for the message, the confrontation, the emotional outburst, but it never came. Because you realize something they never did. Closure is not something you ask another person for, it's something you give yourself. They can't comprehend how someone can walk away without unfinished business, without wanting answers, without needing to unpack the pain. But you did, because you understood that chasing explanations from someone who chose betrayal only extends the wound. You chose to heal, not to question. They are confused because you never tried to expose them. They thought you would run around telling your side of the story, screaming the truth, trying to clear your name. But you've grown past the need to prove yourself. You let people believe whatever they wanted, because real peace comes from not needing to control anyone's perception. They lied to protect their image, while you stayed silent to protect your peace, and that difference is exactly why you won. They never expected you to be capable of emotional endings without emotional explosions. Society taught people that closure looks dramatic, slamming doors, shouting matches, ugly final scenes. But you mastered the quiet exit. You didn't destroy bridges, you simply stopped crossing them. They didn't realize that silence can be the most permanent goodbye. They also never understood how someone could still remain respectful after being wronged. You didn't publicly humiliate them, drag their name, or seek revenge, you just walked away. Only people with self-control can do that. And it burns them deeply because it shows who truly had the power. If you were capable of destruction but chose peace, then peace was the stronger move. They thought you would come crawling back once the shock hit you, but no shock ever did. Instead, you reclaimed your focus, your energy, your self-respect, and redirected it into your own life. They expected your world to crumble. Instead, you rebuilt it better without them. Nothing is more painful to someone who betrayed you than seeing you thrive untouched. They never imagined you would become someone they couldn't read, couldn't control, couldn't predict. The new version of you is their biggest nightmare because it exposes their biggest insecurity. They never had any real power over you, only the power you allowed them to think they had. Now that illusion is shattered, and they have no idea how to deal with the version of you that doesn't flinch, doesn't react, and doesn't need their validation. That alone is driving them insane. Your silence is the loudest voice in their life now. Every day they wake up thinking, how did they heal without me? How did they move on when I expected them to crumble? They never prepared for a world where you didn't need them. Your new version shows them just how small they were in the bigger picture, and that truth is eating them alive. They scroll through your life from a distance, trying to decode how the person they tried to break became someone stronger, calmer, and more dangerous. They thought your upgrade was temporary, a phase, maybe even a front. But the more time passes, the more they see this is permanent. You aren't pretending you've genuinely leveled up, and they can't handle the fact that you did it alone. Your emotional independence is a weapon. It slices through their ego without you needing to say a single word. They once believed they were the center of your universe. Now they see they weren't even a galaxy. They watch you shine without them and feel something even worse than jealousy: irrelevance. And that burns deeper than any insult ever could. Their mind replays every memory of when they had access to you, and it stings because they finally see what they lost. You were loyal. You were genuine. You were the kind of person people pray for. And now someone else will get what they threw away. The realization of that is the ghost that haunts them every single night. They try to convince themselves you changed, but deep down they know the truth. You simply stop tolerating disrespect. Your new version is not cruel, it's just done. And nothing terrifies a manipulative soul more than a heart they can't influence anymore. They keep checking your emotional temperature, but you've gone cold. Ice cold, and it's killing them. The fact that you don't react to their games anymore shocks them. Their mind is used to seeing you care, seeing you explain, seeing you fight to be understood. Now you don't fight for anything, not because you've given up, but because you realized you never should have needed to fight in the first place. That realization is what flips their world upside down. Your upgrade feels personal to them, even though it has nothing to do with them. They see your glow up as a weapon, your happiness as a threat, your peace as an attack. And that's how you know they were never on your side. Anyone who takes your growth personally was always silently rooting for your downfall. They ask themselves every day, how did they detach? Because they believed that once someone loved, they'd always stay loyal even in pain. They didn't understand that loyalty dies the moment self-respect is buried. They never expected you to resurrect your dignity, but you did. And now they're the ones choking on the dust of their own assumptions. Your new standards drive them crazy. They realize they can't approach you the way they used to. They used to walk into your life like they owned a key. Now they face a titanium door with no lock. The access they used to misuse is gone forever, and they know they don't have what it takes to earn it back. Your calmness is psychological warfare. They scream in their head, wondering how you moved on without losing your humanity. While they still search for the version of you that cried in silence, you outgrew the phase where tears served any purpose. The old you broke, the new you rebuilds, and that contrast torments them. Even your success hits them like a bullet. They expected you to struggle, to fall apart, to drown without them. Instead, you became someone people admire, someone others support, someone whose presence is respected. That wasn't part of their script. But life has a funny way of rewriting itself once the villain finds their wings. They see the confidence in your eyes now, and it exposes how insecure they truly are. They can't understand how someone they tried to break became someone impossible to shake. They underestimated your mind, your resilience, your ability to turn pressure into diamonds, and now they live in fear of what else you're capable of. The beauty is this: you didn't become the villain they pushed you into your evolution. All they did was teach you how to choose yourself. And now that you do, they feel abandoned by a person they never protected. That's the karma of emotional neglect. One day the person who cared simply stops. You became their unsolved puzzle. They can't figure out why they lost control, why their words no longer sting, why their existence doesn't matter to you anymore. They keep searching for the blueprint to the new you, but the blueprints burned the day you realized your value wasn't up for negotiation. Your new version isn't revenge, it's a consequence. A natural outcome of a soul that got tired of bleeding for the undeserving. And the irony? They created this version of you while trying to prevent you from ever reaching it. They played the game, and you became the master. You learned the rules they assumed you were too emotional to understand. And now, every day, your silence, your distance, your glow, your healing messes with their mind. Because you didn't just move on. You leveled up. You evolved. You left the old version of yourself behind like a grave. And they're still mourning the person they destroyed. They stare at the new you like a stranger, because they never took the time to understand you when they had the chance. Their ego assumed they had you figured out forever, that you would always react the same, forgive the same, and hurt the same. But evolution is the price of betrayal, and now they're stuck watching someone unrecognizable, strong, calm, detached, and no longer emotionally enslaved to their behavior. That's the version that haunts them. They see your smile and wonder who taught you how to laugh without them. They see your movement and ask themselves, who gave you the strength to walk away so cleanly? They never realized you always had wings, you just stopped letting them clip them. Now that you're airborne, they finally understand how small the world is from the ground. They miss the version of you who explained everything, who cared too deeply, who fought to make things right. They don't miss you, they miss control. And that difference is the very reason they lost you. When someone loves your dependency more than your happiness, you're not in a relationship, you're being emotionally contained. You broke out, and now they don't know how to live without that power. Your glow has become a mirror they can't handle. Every new achievement you unlock forces them to confront their own stagnation. Every time your name is praised, their failures echo louder. And the painful truth is, you didn't win at their expense, they just never grew. Watching you climb only reminds them they stayed exactly where you left them. They never thought you would stop seeking closure, but you healed without answers. You forgave without apologies. You outgrew without conversations. That is psychological domination, winning without engaging. Their mind replays every scene, searching for what they could have done differently, but the movie already ended and the credits have rolled. They're scared because they don't know what version of you the world will meet next. If you could transform this much from pain, what will peace create? What will success create? What will power create? They can barely handle the version of you built from heartbreak. Imagine how terrified they'll be of the version built from abundance. They call you cold now, but the truth is simpler. You stopped melting for people who never brought fire. That's not cruelty, that's self-respect. And being finally forced to respect you instead of manipulate you is what shakes them the most. Your new boundaries are walls they no longer have the keys to. Their punishment is ongoing, because they now understand something brutal. Your absence hurts more than your presence ever did. When they had you, they didn't value the light you brought. Now in the dark, they finally realize how rare that light was. You didn't just leave their life, you removed the warmth that made it worth something. They replay their mistakes because they expected a second chance. They thought time would heal in their favor. Instead, time became your weapon. Time turned pain into clarity, and clarity turned you into someone immune to their influence. The scariest enemy is the one who realizes they never needed you, and that's who you became. Your new version is a revelation. You never needed revenge. Growth was the revenge. Peace was the revenge. Silence was the revenge. Watching you evolve while they remain unchanged is the slowest and most excruciating punishment, one they administer to themselves every single day. They tried to break you, but they accidentally broke the part of you that tolerated disrespect. Now you move with precision, with wisdom, with emotional discipline. You don't argue, you don't chase, you don't explain. You outgrow, and that to them is unforgivable. People who depend on your weakness always hate your strength. In the end, they can't stop thinking about the one truth that never changes. If they had treated you right, This version of you would have belonged to them. They had the chance. They had the access. They had the privilege. They lost it. And now they must watch someone else experience the upgraded soul they once took for granted. And that is the real conclusion. They still can't understand how their story flipped so suddenly. One moment they were the center of your attention, the main character in your world, the star of every scene, and then, almost overnight, the camera shifted, the lighting dimmed, and their role shrank to something forgettable. They were spoiled by the version of you who poured effort, attention, reassurance, and loyalty into them. They got addicted to being prioritized, to being the one who mattered most. They never believed there could be a world where you simply stopped caring until it arrived. They didn't realize that being treated special was never a guarantee. It was a choice. And when someone takes your kindness and mistakes it for weakness, the choice is revoked elegantly, silently, and without warning. They thought your affection was permanent. They thought being chosen today meant being chosen forever. And that assumption was their downfall, because they never understood that love is not a contract, it is a privilege. They never saw the shift coming. One day, you were all in, giving the kind of warmth most people never receive. Then suddenly you were detached, indifferent, unbothered. And their confusion wasn't because you changed, it was because they forced the change. They told themselves you would chase, cling, and panic if they pulled away or showed disrespect. They thought they could play games with someone who genuinely cared. But they forgot that the sweetest souls have limits, and when they reach those limits, the switch flips. They thought they had time to return your energy, time to treat you right later, time to fix what they were breaking. But the time ran out while they were busy taking you for granted. At first, you gave them everything. Your presence, your loyalty, your softness, your patience. You made them feel chosen in a way no one else ever had. And they believed that treatment was guaranteed, because they were too blinded by entitlement. You didn't demote them, they demoted themselves with their behavior. You didn't turn cold, they turned you cold. You didn't fall out of love, they pushed you out with their own hands. And when you finally treated them like a side character, they couldn't stand it. But they never considered that they made themselves irrelevant by acting as if losing you was impossible. What really stings them is not that you changed, but that the new version of you flourished without needing them. You didn't beg, you didn't plead, you didn't negotiate, you simply rewrote the script and recast the lead. They now understand a painful truth. You treated them special because they were special to you, not because you had to. They didn't value that when they had it, and now they miss something they can never get back. They're shocked that someone who once made them feel so important can walk past them like a stranger. But that's how life works. When respect disappears, so does priority. They thought they could break your heart and still keep their place in your life. They didn't realize you don't hold seats for people who walk out in the middle of the movie. They can't accept that the same person who once made room for them in every decision now moves through the world without consulting them at all. That shift in power is what truly terrifies them. Your silence and distance were not punishment, they were evolution. You upgraded, and they were still running the outdated version of the story where they were relevant. They believed you would always return, always forgive, always show up, even after they gave you every reason not to. And now that you haven't, their ego is choking on the reality. They replay the past because the present is unbearable. In the past they were adored. In the present they are just another face in the crowd, and their pride can't handle the downgrade. They laugh and joke on the outside, pretending they don't care. But deep down they know you never lost them, they lost you. And losing someone who genuinely loved you is a loss you feel forever. They thought they were irreplaceable until they saw just how easily you adapted without them. Your glow never dimmed, and that alone shattered whatever superiority they believed they had. They didn't realize you weren't just giving love, you were also studying them. And when the study was complete, you closed the book and walked away with the lesson. Now they finally see why they were treated like the main character at first. because you were giving them a chance to rise. They had the spotlight, the script, the opportunity, but they threw it away. When you demoted them to a side character, you didn't do it out of revenge. You did it because the story was moving forward, and they stopped growing. You outgrew the scene and they got left behind in the last chapter. Now they watch your life like an audience member, realizing the plot never needed them to continue. And that is the twist that hurts the most. They didn't lose importance because you changed. They lost importance because they didn't. And in the end, the credits rolled without their name at the top, not because you erased them, but because they never earned their place in the final cut. They never imagined that someone who once made them feel like the center of the universe could learn to live as if they never existed. That transformation haunts them. It proves you were not dependent, you were simply giving, and the moment you stopped giving, the entire relationship collapsed because they brought nothing to hold it together. They thought they were irreplaceable because they mistook your loyalty for helplessness. They mistook your patience for fear of losing them. But the truth surfaced the moment you walked away. Your loyalty was a choice, not a weakness, and once withdrawn, their value was exposed for what it was, temporary and overestimated. They now realize the danger of taking a good person for granted. Good people don't always stay good after they're hurt. Some walk away quietly. Some build walls. Some sharpen themselves into something new. You became the version they created through their own neglect. It eats them alive that you didn't need a dramatic exit, no shouting, no threats, no confrontation, just a smooth disappearance that spoke louder than any breakup speech could have. The quietness of your departure screamed, "I outgrew this." They scroll past your success, pretending it doesn't bother them, but every achievement, every glow-up, every moment of your growth reminds them of how monumental the loss was. They don't envy your life, they envy the version of themselves they could have become if they had treated you right. People always assume strength is loud, but your strength was silent. Silent when they tested your patience. Silent when they disrespected you. Silent when they offered less than they received. By the time they realized silence meant you were done, the bridge was already ash. They thought they understood you, but they never noticed how observant you were. You saw the patterns, the manipulation, the entitlement. You just waited to be sure. Once the picture was clear, you unplugged your emotions, and they never saw the switch flip. They believed the story could not continue without them. But the most painful revelation was watching your life not just continue but upgrade. Your peace stabilized, your priorities recalibrated, and the world didn't collapse when they left. Their ego did. It shocks them that the same person who once made them feel adored and significant now doesn't even flinch at their absence. That kind of emotional control is terrifying to someone who expected to forever hold emotional power over you. They didn't realize you weren't cold, you were healed. And healing doesn't come with explanations. When you detach with peace, it shakes people who expected revenge, confrontation, or emotional begging. Peace shows who was really dependent. They once bragged about being the most important person in your life. Now they avoid mentioning your name because it reminds them they're not even part of the cast anymore. From lead role to uncredited background extra, that's a fall no ego forgets. They replay the past not because they miss you, but because they miss who they were when you loved them. You made them the best version of themselves, and they destroyed that gift with their arrogance. Now they are left with a downgraded self that only shines in memory. The hardest thing for them to accept is that you didn't seek replacement, you improved your inner world instead. They thought you'd jump into another arms for validation, but you chose self-evolution. And nothing threatens insecure souls like someone who grows alone. You treating them like a side character was not cruelty, it was justice. You simply placed them in the role they earned with their actions. When someone doesn't show up for the story moves on without them. It's that simple. They wanted to be missed, but they ended up being forgotten. And nothing is more brutal than realizing someone has healed so completely that the memory of you no longer triggers emotion, not pain, not anger, not even nostalgia.